Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a really powerful novella by Anwen Hayward called Here, the World Entire. And let me tell you, this book completely flips a timeless myth on its head, giving a voice to one of history's most misunderstood monsters.
And this right here, this is the core question the book just drops in your lap. It makes you confront everything you thought you knew about heroes, about villains, and honestly, about the stories we've been telling for centuries.
Okay, so let's get into what this book actually is. First off, we're not talking about some massive, sprawling epic. Nope, it's a short novella. But don't let that fool you. It's an incredibly dense piece of fiction that, wow, it just packs a serious punch.
So yeah, this is not your typical, action-packed myth with heroes and quests. It's something else entirely. It's a really deep psychological study. Instead of following the hero, this book hands the microphone, so to speak, straight to Medusa. It's all about exploring the aftermath of her trauma, and it does it with this just profound authenticity. So how does the author do this? Well, it's pretty brilliant, actually. She uses 5 key insights and presents them as if they're direct quotes from Medusa herself. And through these, she completely deconstructs the old myth and rebuilds it brick by brick from the survivor's point of view. Let's walk through them together.
Okay, this first one, wow. It cuts right to the very heart of victim blaming, doesn't it? Medusa's basically saying, hey, I was made into this monster not because of anything I did, but because the gods couldn't even stand to look at my pain. It really challenges us to see the whole person behind the pain.
And this next point, it just perfectly nails the problem with so many of our traditional hero stories. You know the drill. We celebrate the hero, Perseus, for slaying the monster. But in doing that, the story completely erases the reality of the person who is labeled a monster. So the book forces us to stop and ask a really important question. Whose side of the story are we not hearing?
This one is so sharp. The book just lays bare how systems of power can flip everything around and punish the victim instead of the person who did the harm. Athena's so-called justice had nothing to do with real justice or healing. Nope. It was all about piling on shame and keeping things exactly as they were. It's a really brutal critique, but man, is it powerful.
Now, this quote gets into a really painful paradox that so many survivors face. On one hand, isolating yourself can feel like the only way to stay safe, but that safety is a prison, right? It cuts you off from connection, from healing. It's this impossible choice you have to make when the world has already slapped a label on you and called it a day.
And finally, we get to this, the ultimate transformation. This is where the novella completely reframes Medusa's death. It's not a defeat. It's not her being slain. It's the one single moment where she finally reclaims her own agency. She chooses her ending. She turns an act of violence against her into an act of her own will. Just incredible.
So what's the big takeaway here? The crucial point is this. The book argues that real power isn't about changing the past. You can't. It's about reclaiming your perspective on it. And this idea, it builds into something really powerful, something you can actually use. It's a practice for building resilience.
The author actually has a name for this, perspective ownership. It's all about shifting the way you talk to yourself, your internal language. Moving from that passive voice, this happened to me, to an active one, this is how I choose to respond. It's not about pretending bad things didn't happen, not at all. It's about focusing on your own power to frame your story and decide what comes next. And that can be a huge tool for restoring a sense of dignity.
All right, time for our final thoughts. And look, as much as this novella moved us, and it really did, it's not perfect. So let's get into the nitty-gritty and break down our assessment. Okay, on the one hand, its greatest strength is, without a doubt, its psychological depth. It's just so authentic. And the language, it's absolutely beautiful, really poetic. But that intense, inward focus, that's also kind of its main limitation. Some of the other characters, like Perseus, end up feeling more like symbols than actual people. And hey, if you're looking for a big, action-packed plot, this probably isn't the book for you.
So with all of that in mind, our final grade for Here, the World Entire is a 7.9 out of 10. It really is a remarkable and, I think, very important piece of writing. And let's break that score down a bit. It scores really high on content quality, and that's all thanks to that deep, honest exploration of trauma. It also gets top marks for impact potential, and because of those actionable insights on recovery we talked about, it gets a solid score for practical applicability, which means it's more than just a great story, it's got real-world value. So, if this has got you thinking and you're curious to find more stories like this, more stories that give a voice to the voiceless, well, good news. The journey doesn't have to stop here.
We've got a couple of great recommendations for you. First, you absolutely have to check out Madeline Miller's Circe. It's another incredible feminist retelling, but on a much broader scale. And for something a bit more gritty and modern, try Pat Barker's The Silence of the Girls. It's an unflinching look at the Trojan War from the women's perspective. Both of these books are doing that same vital work of reclaiming voices that have been silenced for way too long.
So, we want to leave you with this final thought. This book, it's so much more than just a retelling of an old myth. It's really a prompt, a challenge, for you to question every story you've ever taken for granted. To stop and ask yourself, wait a minute, who got to be the hero in this story? And who is forced to be the monster? If you enjoyed this breakdown of complex ideas and you want more explainers that make them clear and engaging, you know what to do. Please be sure to follow, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.